I want you to do a visualization exercise. I want you to project yourself into the future. Imagine you have just turned 65 years old. You have worked tirelessly for over 4 decades. You woke up early, fought traffic, swallowed your pride in front of difficult bosses, paid your taxes, took care of your family, and followed the exact script society handed you. The good citizen script. Now, the moment has arrived. The supposed finish line? Retirement. You put on comfortable clothes and head to a financial advisor's office to map out your next steps. The room is cold, with strong air conditioning and glass furniture. The advisor opens your file on the computer. He analyzes the history of your entire life consolidated into charts. And then he looks at you, and he gives you a look you will never, ever forget. It is a terrible mixture of clinical discomfort and pity. He turns the monitor toward you, and the number that represents the sacrifice of your entire life, or your shield for the next 20 or 30 years of living, is exactly $88,400. Let that number echo in your mind. $88,400. That's it. That is all you have to fund the final third of your existence, right when your physical energy will be at its lowest point and your need for medical care will be at its absolute highest. Social Security will help, of course, but the average payout today hovers around $1,900 a month. If you use the mathematical safety rule so you don't drain your savings too fast, the 4% safe withdrawal rule, those $88,000 will generate a meager $294 a month. Combine that with Social Security, and you will have approximately $2,200 a month to cover housing, food, healthcare, insurance, transportation, and absolutely everything else. In that exact second, sitting in that chair, panic floods your nervous system. You start doing the math you spent 40 years avoiding. Can I afford to keep my house? Am I going to have to move into my kid's basement? Will I have to work as a supermarket bagger at 70 because the money for my medication ran short? What I just described is not alarmist fiction. It is not a worst-case scenario. This is the exact median reality for American citizens retiring right now. Half of all people approaching the retirement finish line have less than $88,000. Millions have absolutely nothing at all. Society has been trained to believe that time solves everything, that the system will catch you. The system will not catch you. The system will let you hit the concrete. I am Buck. And today, we are going to dissect the anatomy of a financial disaster happening in slow motion. I'm going to show you exactly why people reach the end of their lives begging for help, and what silent behavioral errors guarantee that failure. More importantly, I'm going to hand you the tactical parameters that separate those who retire with sovereign dignity from those who retire into profound, agonizing financial anxiety. The truth is uncomfortable, but understanding reality is the only starting point to change it. Let's look at the field intelligence. The data financial institutions hide in the fine print of their contracts. The Federal Reserve conducts the survey of consumer finances. It is the most precise X-ray of household wealth in the country, and the data reveals a crisis hiding in plain sight. For households where the head is between 55 and 64, the final prep decade, the median retirement savings is about $134,000. That means half the population 10 years away from stopping work has less than that. When we look at the 65 to 74 age bracket, those who have already crossed the line, the median collapses to $88,400. They have already started burning the little capital they had to survive the early years of old age. Pay attention to a vital statistical trick. The average retirement savings is much higher, hitting around $400,000. Why? Because a tiny fraction of extremely wealthy people, the elite operators, pulls the mathematical average up artificially. When the average is $400,000, but the median, the guy exactly in the middle of the line, has $88,000, it screams a dark fact. The vast majority of people have almost nothing, while a select group has empires. The bottom 50% of households over 55 have virtually zero reserves. Nothing. A vacuum. They will rely exclusively on the state, family charity, or working until their bodies permanently fail. Translating this into daily survival. Living on $26,000 a year, combining Social Security and the safe withdrawal from $88,000, puts you painfully close to the official poverty line. The median individual is not technically destitute on paper, but they are living on a razor's edge. They are one bad medical diagnosis away from collapse. They are one major roof repair away from bankruptcy. This is not what human beings were meant to work 40 years for. And the situation is even more critical for you watching this today, younger. The current generation of retirees, the ones who are failing, still rode tailwinds you will never have. They lived through the era of guaranteed defined benefit pensions, where the company took on the risk of the employee's old age. They bought homes when the ratio between housing prices and income was infinitely more accessible. You do not have that. Guaranteed pensions were eradicated and replaced by 401k plans. This means all the risk of your future has been surgically transferred from your employer's shoulders to your shoulders. You have become the sole and exclusive manager of your own survival fund. If you mess up, no one is coming to save you. The previous generation had the wind at their backs and still crashed the boat into the rocks. Your generation has a hurricane in your face. Without a massive behavioral restructuring today, the crisis will be relentless. To fix a broken machine, you need to know exactly where the parts are failing. Misery in old age doesn't happen overnight. It is built methodically, day by day, through 5 silent sabotages. Failure 1. The illusion of postponement, the cost of lost time. The most lethal factor in wealth building is not the amount of money, it is the time of exposure. Time is the fuel of compound interest. Many believe the illusion that right now I need to experience life. I'll save money when I'm 35 and established. This is the lie that impoverishes millions. Let's use a clear, original example. Imagine a 24-year-old. Instead of putting $300 a month into a solid fund, he decides he deserves to go to exorbitant music festivals and finance a sports car. He delays investing until 35. What happens? The individual who started at 24 and invested just $300 a month until 35 and then never invested another cent in his life will have more money at 65 than the guy who started at 35 and invested $300 every single month without stopping for 30 years. The math is counterintuitive and unforgiving. Every year of delay costs exponentially more. Ignoring your 20s is financial suicide. Failure 2. Middle-age inflation, the trap of success. A professional hits his early 30s. He finally gets a big promotion. His household income jumps by $10,000 a year. What does standard behavior, civilian behavior, dictate? He immediately upgrades the apartment for a house that requires triple the maintenance. He returns the economy car and takes on a European luxury SUV lease for $800 a month. The income raise was instantly vaporized by a millimeter-perfect expansion in lifestyle. The margin of maneuver remains zero. The savings rate plummets exactly when it should take off. The justifications are always noble. It's for the kid's comfort. I work hard. I deserve it. Today's comfort is bought at the price of tomorrow's desperation. By expanding your cost of living along with your income, you guarantee you will never reach escape velocity. Failure 3. The premature extraction, the desperation withdrawal. This is one of the most painful errors to witness. A person works at a tech company for 5 years. At age 30, she changes jobs. She has $18,000 accumulated in her 401k retirement fund. What does she do? She decides to cash out the money instead of rolling it over to the new account. She uses the excuse that she needs to clear some credit card debt caused by indiscipline, or that she wants to have a destination wedding before taking the new role. By cashing out those $18,000, she pays federal early withdrawal penalties and heavy income taxes. She's left with maybe $12,000 in hand, but the real cost? That original $18,000 left alone, compounding at 8% a year for another 35 years, would have become nearly $300,000 in retirement. That individual didn't throw a $12,000 wedding. She threw a $300,000 wedding. She incinerated her own future peace for one day of photos on a beach. Failure 4. The fallacy of the late sprint. This is the individual who wakes up at 50, looks at a zero balance and says, okay, from now on I'm going to save a lot of money and catch up. Math does not care about your intentions. If you want $500,000 at 65 and start at 25, you need to contribute roughly $300 a month. If you want that same $500,000 and try to start at 50, you will need to contribute almost $2,000 a month every month. The problem? At 50, your cost of living has crystallized. You have higher medical expenses, kids in college, a mortgage. It is logistically unfeasible to quadruple your savings rate at that stage. The idea of making up for lost time is a dangerous fantasy. Failure 5. The hiding place of dead money, the risk of being safe. There are those who are disciplined, who save their money religiously, but who fail due to tactical cowardice. They are terrified of stock market volatility, so they leave their retirement money in checking accounts, savings, or money market funds yielding 2% a year. They feel they are safe, but inflation is running at 3% or 4%. Their money is slowly dying of starvation. The difference between a cowardly 3% return and an 8% market return over 3 decades is crushing. Someone saving $400 a month at 3% reaches almost $300,000. The same person investing correctly at 8% gets close to $900,000. The fear of investing took $600,000 out of their pocket. Safe money is the most dangerous money in the long run. Now that the minefield is mapped, let's look at the tactical solutions. What separates the individual who will have $88,000 from the one who will have $1 million? It is not an inheritance. It is not winning the lottery. It is not a miraculous salary. It is the implementation of high-discipline, low-friction mechanisms. Differential 1. Blind automation. People who win do not trust their own willpower. They know willpower fails when you are tired, sad, or euphoric. The individual who fails tries to save the money left over at the end of the month. There is never anything left. The sovereign operator automates the process. The money leaves the payroll account and goes straight to the investment account the exact millisecond the paycheck hits. They never see the color of that money. Their brain adapts to living on what remains. They designed a system where the only way to fail would be to actively log into the app and cancel the automatic order, which takes effort. They used human laziness to their advantage. Differential 2. The 15% doctrine. The median citizen contributes 3% to 5% of their income, often just to get the minimum employer match. That is not enough. It is putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. The non-negotiable rule for anyone who does not want to depend on others is to invest, reliably, 15 to 20% of their gross income. The difference between saving 5% and saving 15% of a $60,000 salary feels like just a tight squeeze month to month. But over 30 years, it is the literal difference between ending up with $200,000 or ending up with over $1 million. Differential 3. The genuine investor strategy. You don't enter the financial market to test your luck on obscure companies your brother-in-law recommended. You don't buy today's trendy digital coin to sell it next week. That is the behavior of an addicted gambler. The operator allocates their capital into diversified global index funds. They buy pieces of all the profitable companies in the world. When the market drops 30%, and it will happen, they don't panic and they don't sell at rock bottom. They hold the line in the trench, knowing that downturns are part of the game, not the end of it. Differential 4. The zero debt perimeter. The $88,000 person frequently reaches 65 still paying off car loans, revolving credit card balances, and home equity lines. The weak income they will have must be immediately drained to pay the banks. The tactical mission of those who want to win is to mercilessly annihilate any toxic consumer debt before crossing the retirement line. The only acceptable liability to carry is an extremely controlled, fixed-rate mortgage. If you have pending credit card debt in your old age, you have lost the structural war. Differential 5. The medical war chest. Modern medicine will keep you alive for a long time, but the price for that survival is astronomical. The median citizen ignores this until they get sick. The strategist understands that healthcare costs will be their largest expense in the future. They build specific funds, like HSA accounts, and they protect their own biology by training and eating decently today. Because prevention is the cheapest health insurance that exists, I want you to understand something profound about the numbers I presented here. The gigantic gap between living in terror with 88,000 or living in tranquility with $1 million is not created by heroic acts or blood-curdling sacrifices. The difference is built by daily micro-decisions. Let's do the math of triviality. The difference between the person who invests 5% and the person who invests 15% of a median salary comes down to about $15 a day. $15 a day. That is the price of a bad sandwich and an espresso in the middle of the afternoon. That is the price of an extra streaming subscription you barely watch. That is the price of taking an Uber out of laziness instead of walking 4 blocks. That insignificant amount, redirected and compounded over 30 years, is what builds the insurmountable wall of $1 million difference. The person who decides to pack their lunch for work instead of going to a mediocre restaurant is, in fact, making a fundamental decision about their retirement. They just don't see it that way in the moment. The individual who reached 65 with $88,000 did not make one huge, terrible decision to go broke. They made thousands of tiny, comfortable decisions. They chose daily comfort over future security. Each individual choice seemed reasonable. I had a hard day. I'll order expensive delivery tonight. My car still works, but I want the new model with a sunroof. The sum of these reasonable choices produce the statistical disaster. You cannot simply accidentally save enough to have a free life in the future. Wealth does not fall into the lap of those who stumble. You must adopt a combative and intentional posture. You must refuse to accept the default behavior of the majority, because the destination of the majority, as the numbers humiliatingly prove, is insufficiency. If you're watching this at 25, your tactical advantage is colossal. Small adjustments today will put you in an untouchable position tomorrow. If you're watching at 40, the time is shorter, but the window of maneuver to multiply your reserves by 3 or 4 still exists if you are relentless right now. Even at 50, radical cutting and contributing actions can change your timeline. The only real, unforgivable, and absolute failure is understanding the rules of the game I just explained to you and still choosing inertia. $88,000 represents the cost of cowardly, passive behavior. It does not have to be your portrait in the future. If you are tired of being manipulated, if you decided you will no longer be a depressing statistic in government reports, if you want to stop living on autopilot and start operating as the commander of your own life, you need a battle order. You cannot depend on your motivation or your mood next Monday morning. Motivation is useless against billion-dollar marketing. You need a logistical system. That is why I compiled all the tactics for survival, protection, and financial expansion into a single operations manual. It is called The Order of the Day, 365 high-impact actions for your financial sovereignty. This is not a book with inspiring quotes for you to highlight. It is a tactical daily execution guide. You will learn how to set up blind automation so that your money is protected from yourself. You will have the metrics to stop the bleeding of an inflated lifestyle and identify toxic expenses you don't even see. You will structure your capital with the resilience needed to weather layoffs and global crises without ever having to ask anyone for help. The difference between intention and result is the protocol you follow daily. Access to the Order of the Day manual is available right now through the link down below in the video description and in the first pinned comment. The investment to acquire this tactical intelligence is completely negligible compared to a single financial mistake you make on a careless trip to the mall. The return is the rescue of your future and your family's future. What you do in the next 24 hours will decide which side of the statistic you will be on when your body asks for rest. Choose wisely. The link is waiting for you. Act today. Keep your numbers calculated, your behavior cold, and your soul non-negotiably free. I am Buck, and I will see you on the battlefield.